Next question. Single most dynamic player in the NFL is. I'll go first because I don't trust Paul to go first. You let Paul go first.
Good call. Good call.
Bad things happen. No, the most dynamic player in the NFL, in my opinion, is still Lamar Jackson. I know he got hurt, got carted off, but there is nobody in the league who, every single time they touch the ball, no matter how or what is going to happen, there's this chance for something special. But Derrick Henry was in my conversation because just from a pure running back, he is one of the most like Derrick Henry got hurt and I felt like cheated. Mm-hmm. Just as a football fan, I felt cheated. So I dig that. If Lamar doesn't come back, then I'll feel cheated in some way. But Lamar is, to me, the most dynamic player in the NFL. And I think it's by a fairly big margin. What say you, Mr. Sanudo?
All right, I'm going to be a little bit surprising here. I feel like I'm not going to say generic, but I feel like
Andrew Whitworth.
I feel like, no, not him. I mean, he torched the Cardinals yesterday, but listen, dynamic, you don't really think of this guy. I feel like dynamic, like you said, Lamar, I totally agree with that, by the way. Lamar is up there. But I'm going to go with a, surprising, quirky answer. I'm going to go George Kittle. Being a dynamic player in the NFL. Yeah, I know it's a little shocking to you, but I feel like, first of all, he's the most complete tight end in the NFL. He's a great blocker, and he's very elusive and quick. And, he wasn't really heralded coming out, in his draft. And I was thinking of Deebo Samuel too, obviously, running the football as a wide receiver. But I was feeling, a little different, because I feel like you look at George Kittle's stats the last 2 weeks, 9 receptions, 13 receptions. And by the way, I think if they wanted to, if they didn't have Deebo, I think they'd run the football with Kittle as well. Like, he's someone that I feel is like untapped. Like, if you wanted George Kittle to run with the football and just do quirky, decision making, I feel like Shanahan could do that with Kittle. So I know it's like a weird answer, but I feel like George Kittle in this conversation, I know it's crazy to say, but George Kittle, I feel like he gets a little bit of lack of respect in certain ways. And I think everyone talks about Travis Kelce and Warranted. I think he's the best tight end in the league. But in terms of completeness, in terms of blocking, George Kittle dynamic, I think he's the guy.
Wow.
Yeah.
All righty. Mr. Adams.
Well, if you're just asking for this year, Cordell Patterson would have to be on this list. The problem is you have like the 9 years preceding this this season. So if Arthur Smith was just following him around, it might have a strong argument. But I'm going to go with Patrick Mahomes. I feel like I was buying when everyone was going off of the bandwagon, everyone was selling the Chiefs. I was buying the stock. I was buying low, and now the Chiefs are back, and no one wants to play them when we get to January. So I've got to go Patrick Mahomes, though I can see a strong argument for Lamar Jackson. I will say, and Ryan will probably like this, a sleeper guy to watch, not this year, but in the coming years, I really like Rondale Moore a lot.
Love him.
Just watching him at Purdue. The main thing for him is staying healthy. That was his thing in college. Like, had a great freshman year and then just couldn't stay on the field at Purdue. So if he can stay on the field, like, he can be used all over the field, just like, I guess like a better version of Patterson this year, even just more dynamic. His speed is incredible and his playmaking ability. The frame worries me a little bit, but he is built pretty well to take the hits as long as he can kind of stay on the field. So that's a guy to watch. But as of today, my money's on Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I love Rondale Moore. He has like a faster Darren Sproles kind of feel to him for me. But yeah, staying healthy is the thing. I literally believe Rondale Moore was the best pure athlete in the draft last year. I think he's the best pure athlete. All things considered, run, jump, speed, strength, all of it. I think he was the best. So I love him as a potential guy in that area. Paul Eston, come on, Denzel Mims, right? That's what you got?
That is definitely not the guy, as we saw over the weekend, but I love the optimism. Thank you. He was on the honorable mention, cutting room floor, as we say in the business.
Gotcha.
But Brian, I'm going to be honest. I'm surprised that you overlooked this guy, but maybe I shouldn't because he's 5'6" on a slanted hill. But Jakeem Grant is the single most dynamic player in the NFL. We all saw him in prime time 97 yards to his house, and he did the one thing returners are like, oh no, he stopped, looked around, said, you know what, I think this direction is better, and then whoop, moving, grooving, slicing, and dicing all the way down the field, and hell, even got involved on offense, catching one and taking it to his house. Jakeem Grant, you said Lamar Jackson, every time he touches the football, oh snap, it could be a big play. That is literally the definition of Jakeem Grant, who again, 5'6", 100 nothing, 5 foot nothing. This guy is absolutely the most dynamic player in the NFL that no one is talking about.
Well, I would, if we had a different question and we said, who is the single most dynamic player that no one is talking about, then I might have completely ridden with you and said, yes, Jakeem Grant is that guy. But that's not what the question was. And there is no way in hell Jakeem Grant, after essentially one major performance in prime time, is more dynamic than Lamar Jackson. Like, there's just no way. And I am a Bears fan through and through, and I followed the Bears for decades. There is no way that he is the most dynamic player in the end, and that's just not going to be it, right? So, yeah, I really he played well. He played very well against the Packers. I am all for giving dangerous return men the freedom to reverse field and do different things that nobody else is going to be able to do. But you got to be on Dante Hall, Devin Hester, that kind of a level before I tell you to do anything like that. And I think Jakeem Grant is that one of those kinds of guys. I hope that even with all of the turnover that's coming, obviously, to the Bears on the sidelines and in the front office, that they give a serious, consideration to bringing him back. I've always felt that dynamic return men were undervalued. And this comes from someone who got an opportunity to watch literally like every punt and kick return Devin Hester ever had in a Chicago Bears uniform. So I know what kind of game-changing kind of a factor a guy like that can be when you get one who is really, really this good at it. And so when you find somebody who you think might be on that level, you got to value that. And I'm hoping that the Bears do give Jakeem Grant that type of consideration, because if he finishes the rest of the season out playing anywhere close to what he did on Sunday night, yeah, you got something pretty special.
By the way, real quick, Mazik, since you are our resident Chicago Bears insider, Devin Hester, Hall of Famer?
Absolutely. I don't think so. Here's the thing with Devin Hester, right? If Devin Hester's not a Hall of Famer, then what you are telling me you're telling me that it is impossible to qualify for a Hall of Famer if your primary role was as a return man. That's what you're telling me, because if this guy, without a question, is the greatest ever at his role, we've never seen another guy change the game as a return man like Devin Hester. If he doesn't have a Hall of Fame resume, then my question would be, then who has had his role? Who has? Right. We have Ray Guy in the Hall of Fame, and because he's considered, the greatest punter. I feel the same way about the Patriots with Matthew Slater, right? Yeah. Matthew Slater is arguably the greatest special teams player in history.
Yeah, Steve Tasker of Buffalo still waiting.
Steve Tasker, if those guys cannot get in the Hall, to me, there should never be an established role in a sport that makes you exempt from Hall of Fame consideration. Right. Yeah. And if Devin Hester's not a Hall of Famer, then their return men just can't make it. Yep. I don't know. So that's my take.
His prime time obviously made it, but he had a Hall of Fame other side of his career.
Right. Obviously. I mean, Deion Sanders made it because he was the best shutdown corner in the game.
Yeah, right.
And then he played a little wide receiver too. But to me, from a sole role standpoint, Devin Hester has to go in.